How do? A quick video to show you two techniques for adding rust to your models. To demo these techniques, I'm going to use this Imperial gun turret. This is a 3D printed model, and to be honest, the 3D printing isn't that good, so adding some weathering to it is going to make all the difference. It's actually in two parts to make it easy. Just to give you the base colouring that I've done so far, it's had Chaos Black Primer, Iron Warrior's Silver Dry Brush, and then a Necron Compound Dry Brush. I suggest when you're doing weathering or damage that you make sure your model's fully painted first, and you use the mantra of less is more, because you can always add more weathering and damage, but you can't take it away as easily. The first technique is starting with Typhus Corrosion, and this is for broad area rust. It's either something's completely rusted or big swathes of flat panels or the edges are going to be rusty. This is going to start it. Typhus Corrosion is ace, but make sure you don't use your best brush because it will ruin the bristles. And you can apply this quite liberally across all the area that you want it to be. So on this section I've actually gone up the wall, done around the top, on the sides here. Once the Typhus Corrosion is dried, you're going to dry brush with Riser Rust, but try and keep it to the areas that had the Typhus Corrosion. And because Typhus Corrosion is a technical paint, it creates a rough surface and actually allows you to dry brush and catch all that area, including on the flat planes. With the dry brushing done, you can see that the rust is looking a lot better. The next step is to use Stormhost Silver, and you can use that to catch some of the edges where the rust has broken away or has got down to the previous metal. I like to use an old sponge and then use like a dry brush technique where you take all the paint off and then just dab it on very lightly, and it'll just catch some of these edges in quite a cool way. So I've taken off the majority of the paint and I'm just going to dab it on there, and you can see how it's just caught the edges there, and because it's on a sponge there's an element of randomness to it rather than using edge highlighting. And that is Rust Technique 1. For the second rust technique, this is a more targeted application, the sort of thing for when rain is dripping and pooling on a metal surface. And for this I'm going to use Scrag Brown, and I'm going to dilute it about 50-50 with water, and I'm going to use that to collect it on the bits where I think it would pool, and then run it down the seams where it would drip and run. Having the Scrag Brown so watered down really does help with running it and allowing it to then run down the edges of the seams. It may look quite bracing there, however it will dry and be quite subtle. With that first stage done, you can see that it's actually relatively subtle. The way it looks like it's been leaking down and the rust is running down. And then just to show you what you can do is if you want to take it a bit further, where this one is a lot more rusty. You can see I've tried to make it collect and pool around a lot of the edges. Even on the top there you can see. And the way it dries does look quite realistic. So the next stage now is to use Fire Dragon Bright, and with a fine brush just to highlight some of those areas, the bits which are going to be the brightest, and just being careful to not add a lot of colour. And it just picks out the brightest parts of the rust. This is the end result on the subtle one. You can see it does pull out some of the highlights. And again on the more rusty one, the addition of Fire Dragon Bright does pull out some of the rust a bit better. The next stage, as per the first rust technique, is to use Stormhost Silver and dab it on a little bit. And with the Stormhost Silver done, the second technique is also done. Hope you found that useful. It is quite quick. You can see how effective it makes both of these turrets look. I've only used one technique on the top and the one technique on the bottom, and I'm going to mix and match after this. Let me know in the comments what technique you like to use for rust or for weathering. See you again soon. Bye.